Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports. It's Jason, I'm Chucky. No NBA, no NHL. It's all about the boys of summer right now, and that's baseball. We've talked about it for the last few weeks, about what teams are really playing well, what teams aren't, which teams you guys are doing good on, which teams maybe you're not. Maybe it's what teams that we're not doing good on. But who's the best team in baseball at this point? I think it's an under-the-radar team, and I look at it, I think it's the Cleveland Guardians. I think you look at the Guardians right now, best record in baseball, the only team with single-digit losses at home. They have just played so well. They don't have that big-time pitcher. They've done it collectively as a group with some young starters. Great bullpen with Clase on the back end of it. But for me, it's the Guardians right now who are kind of that surprise team, but best team in baseball.
I'm going to say no. It's not the Guardians because statistically they have a .662 win percentage, and as we sit here doing the show today, the Philadelphia Phillies have a .663 winning percentage. So I'm going to go with the Phillies. A lot of excitement. That's
because they won after I prepared my notes, and that kind of changed it.
I love the lineup. I love the pitching staff. You've got two Las Vegas guys there. I think the Phillies best team in baseball. I think they can get better at the trade deadline. We know that they have the money to go make a move, to pick up a piece of the puzzle that they may need. I don't know if the Guardians are capable to make that big move, go get that big player that may be doing something for them. Their pitching staff, somewhat underwhelming. Their starters don't come at you and knock your socks off, but the hitting and what Ramirez and Naylor and Kwan are doing at the top, absolutely incredible. And then just behind them, just to make mention, the Yankees are at 642, Baltimore 620, and the Dodgers at .617. So a lot of teams right at that bunch, but Philadelphia and Guardians are jumping out on top as the best teams in baseball right now.
And we know the Phillies, you're right, they'll go out and they'll make that move. I mean, if they can pick up somebody to help that team, they're going to do it. I'm just not sure if Cleveland does or not. You look at those big market teams and the payrolls, it's going to even be a wider gap, I think, after the trade deadline, Jay, where you're going to see the Braves, the Dodgers, the Yankees. These teams are going to spend money, the Phillies, to go out and make that move where will the Guardians, will the Twins, will some of these teams that are below the big market, will they go out and do that? Will Seattle?
The Guardians might go after some starting pitching that's out there. They're great. You talked about it before. Their bullpen is absolutely fantastic. Clase on the back end. On the flip side for the Phillies, it's been Alvarado. They shipped Kimbrel on the offseason to Baltimore, who's been solid. That was one of their kind of adventure going through their games of what was going to happen on the back end. I wouldn't be surprised to see them add another piece to that back-end puzzle to look for a guy that maybe can solidify things in the 7th or 8th inning.
All right, so we kind of talked about who we think is the best team right now, but how about just from a fan's perspective, who are the most exciting teams right now to watch? For me, in the American League, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles. With Gunnar Henderson, as good as he's been, with Adley Rutschman, the first overall pick a few years ago, as good as he's been. They've got a lot of young talent. They have one of the better farm systems in all of baseball. They've got Grayson Rodriguez. They can hit the long ball. They play just really good baseball. I think they need to go out and get a starter, though. We know how good Burns is, but they probably need to go out and get a starter at some point for the injuries that they've had. But the Orioles in the American League is the team that I really think is super exciting to watch.
Yeah, and you didn't even name some of the other youngsters on the Orioles, and I agree with you. They're a lot of fun to watch. And Mountcastle, Santander, Cowser, and that's not even bringing up Jackson Holliday, who we know is going to be a big part of that team moving forward. They've got a lot of young guys with historically not a big payroll, so we'll see how many of those guys can stick around in Baltimore. But, man, what a great young team
they have that
put
farm
together.
System if they want to go out and get somebody. I think when you talk about, like, would somebody go out and get a Mason Miller who's under contract for a few more years with the A's, that would that solidify the back end for Baltimore? It's, do they want to part with some of these young kids? Because their farm system is deep. It's not only the guys that we mentioned. There's another 6 guys that are in the top, 100 in all of baseball that would they be willing to part with.
And remember, they're doing this all without Felix Bautista on the back end, who got injured last year. So they've got a great young youth. I'm going to go, as much as I just talked about Philadelphia, I love watching the Phillies play. Again, the two Las Vegas guys, and Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott. I'm a big Phillies fan, but the team that kind of I love watching is the Milwaukee Brewers.
I had it written down too.
The bunch of young kids, Frelick, Chirino, Terang, Ortiz, Perkins, and then they've got these veteran guys like Adames, William Contreras, and Rhys Hoskins.
Contreras is one of the best catchers in baseball.
They play with a chip on their shoulders, and it seems like the Milwaukee Brewers are one play away from a bench clearing brawl in just about every game that they play. And it's hard to say that as a Cubs fan, but it's easy to not be a Cubs fan right now because they're so bad. But I enjoy watching Brewers games because there just seems like there's a passion for the game that you don't see in a lot of teams that are out there.
Well, I think you talk about the Brewers and the Cubs, but their manager left. Craig Counsell left them to go manage the Cubs. I mean, an arch rivalry. I mean, they're so close together where they're positioned not that far away. And he left them to go manage the Cubs. But I had the Brewers written down, too, for my team in the National League. And they're number 1 in stolen bases. They're top 5 in batting average. They lost their manager. They lost Corbin Burns. No one really thought they were going to be that team. It was the Reds getting all the ink and the Cubs and maybe the Cardinals. But the Brewers were kind of a forgotten entity in the National League Central. They've been really fun to watch, and I agree with you with all the young players that you mentioned, the veterans you mentioned, but really Contreras has emerged as one of the top catchers in all baseball.
Yeah, they've had some injuries on their starting pitching that they're starting to get potentially healthy back. Devin Williams, their closer's been out all year, so this team's winning games with a lot of guys that are still potential to come back and help them out in the playoffs. And make no mistake, this is a team that's going to be in the playoffs, and with the way that the rest of the National League kind of shaken out with the Dodgers kind of opening up some questions as to what their starting pitching is going to look like, the Braves with Acuna going down, it looks like everything's going to potentially roll through that Philadelphia Phillies, but look out for those Milwaukee Brewers. I think they're an exciting team to watch. Keep an eye on them and get to know some of these young kids on the Brewers.
I just wonder who are going to be those guys that are made available at the trade deadline and what teams will go out and make that move. We know now with the new format, with the wild card teams, there's more teams involved. We thought that would make it more competitive from top to bottom and more parity, but that really hasn't taken place because a lot of these smaller market teams just aren't willing to make those deals at the deadline. But a lot of these teams do need some pitching. Baltimore, the Dodgers, who's going to be that guy that they can go out and get?
Yeah, well, I thought
Luzardo, but he's hurt now
I look at the AL East
Miami.
From as we start to hit the trade deadline. For me, it's the AL East with the Yankees and Orioles kind of running away with things. It's put kind of Toronto, Boston, and Tampa Bay in a spot where, yes, they're still in that wild card race, but they're falling out. And those pieces of the puzzle, both from a pitching standpoint and the players available, the Tyler O'Neill, the Bichette, Guerrero, we could see some big moves, some big name players.
Do the Jays become sellers?
Yes, coming out of the AL East. But the AL East also is not going to want to ship those guys to New York or Baltimore.
No, right.
So they're going to want to send those guys in the National League or one of the other American League competitors. So that's something that I look for is what's going to happen with those, specifically Toronto, Boston, and Tampa, on who might be available from that to those teams.
I think keep an eye on Bichette maybe to the Dodgers, but to me it's Mason Miller. You know, if he goes to Philadelphia, Baltimore, I mean, the Cubs are in last place, but they've been rumored to be in on him. You know, what team really could use him to solidify the back end? But again, he's under contract not only this year, but 2 more years, so it's going to cost you something. He's not just a rental if somebody goes out and gets Mason Miller.
Yeah, and while we're talking about just teams that are playing well and picking stuff up, the Houston Astros, slowly but surely, are starting to look like the Houston Astros again. Seattle had up to I think a 10-game lead in the division. Looked like they were running away with things, and now I think we've seen Houston win 7 straight games as we're sitting here today. And they're doing that without particularly a healthy lineup. Tucker's been hurt. They're
been
pitching
out for 3 weeks.
Their pitching's been kind of a mess. So. Houston always seems to find a way and find their way into the playoff run, and it seems like it started a little early as we're here before the All-Star break, before we hit July. But look out for this Astro team; they're really, really playing well right now.
Yeah, a lot of teams are starting to pick it up a little bit with that. So now let's look at from kind of the betting side of it, Jay. Is like what teams have been the most profitable for you guys? And this team with the second best record in baseball, the Guardians. But you look at what their win-loss record is and what the price has been on them. They haven't been that overwhelming big favorite like the Phillies, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Yankees have been. So there's so much value there that if you were betting the Guardians in every game this year, you would have made the most money out of any team.
Yeah, and we'll go back to kind of what the question was, is who's the most profitable team for
from
the bettors?
A win standpoint.
Who's been winning for the bets, and then which team has been kind of killing the bettors and not doing well.
I can guess that one.
And if you bet $100 on the money line, so if they're a dog to win that amount, or if they're $100 flat, if they're a favorite to win whatever that would win you, the Guardians, from a money line standpoint, you'd be up $2,054 as we sit here today. Strangely enough as well, if you were betting the Guardians on the run line, you'd also be up $1,828. So you're about a $3,800, almost $3,900 winner on the Guardians by betting $100 every day on the money line and on the run line. Other teams at the top of that list, New York Yankees, you would fully expect that with their record. We talked about the Milwaukee Brewers, Philadelphia Phillies, Baltimore Orioles. So a lot of the best teams in baseball, teams that are playing that 600 ball, they're getting there, with the exception of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Because of that pitching staff with Glasnow and Buehler and Miller, they're almost a $2 favorite in every game that they play.
Right, yep.
And with their record kind of being on the lower tier, you're not doing well on the Dodgers if you're playing them on the money line. The most surprising team for me, as you look at this list, is a team that's making you money but isn't necessarily playing 600 ball, and that's the Washington Nationals.
Right.
They are a plus
they're hovering right around 500.
1,227 on the money line and plus 1,067 on the run line. So the Washington Nationals, again, with a lot of kind of no-name pitchers, with the exception of Mackenzie Gore, they're getting a great place on them. Normally they're a dog, and when, like you said, they're playing close to 500 ball, and you're getting that plus price on a daily basis, you're doing really, really well with the Washington Nationals. Going back to your Guardians, though, the Guardians, one of the main reasons why they're at such big numbers, and you talked about it, is they don't have that big monster superstar pitcher that's making them a $2 favorite every day. McKenzie, Allen, these guys, they're pick 'em games. So when that offense is able to get
Lively,
going,
BB,
they're not those all-star type starter names that are getting you that big number. But it's the bullpen that once those teams get to the fifth inning, once those starters can keep the Guardians in the game, the bullpen doesn't allow anything, and then this lineup is absolutely raking the ball. On the other side of things,
I can guess
the best team to be betting on in baseball isn't necessarily the good teams. The best team in baseball right now is who's ever playing the Chicago White Sox. That's who's the best team in baseball. The Chicago White Sox.
So both the Cubs and White Sox, respectively, are in last place in their divisions.
Currently, if you were betting $100 every day on the White Sox on the money line, you would be down $2,912. There's no one even close, as the next worst would be the Marlins at $1,528. So White Sox, $2,900, Marlins, $1,528. Rockies, Toronto.
So bet the Guardians, bet against the White Sox. You've got your two-team parlay every night. Not only do the Guardians only have single-digit losses at home, the White Sox have single-digit wins on the road. So Guardians at home, White Sox on the road, that's even more enhanced of a number to get.
And the White Sox are you're down $1,185 if you're betting them on the run line. There is a team worse on the run line. There's actually two teams worse on the run line. The Miami Marlins, if you're betting the run line, you're down $1,721 betting the Marlins on the run line. Again, team doesn't score a lot of runs, bullpen's pretty bad, a lot of late covers. And surprisingly enough, Chuck, third place on the run line are Chicago Cubs.
They can't score.
Negative 1,628. So, again, if you want to pick on Chicago White Sox, Chicago Cubs, you'd be making, and the Cubs on the money line are minus 819. Cubs are minus 1,600 on the run line. So betting against the White Sox and the Cubs has been a profitable business or unprofitable business if you're trying to follow those guys. So maybe look at what the
Guardians
Cubs and White
at home,
Sox are doing.
White Sox on the road, bet against. That's your
and if the
two-teamer.
Guardians are playing the White Sox, it's a double bet. Go all in. That's a moneymaker for sure.
Right. And think about the Guardians, that when we put the future book up last year, Jay, to win the World Series, 65-1. I mean, so that's a tremendous price. I mean, we talked about teams in the NBA and the NHL value of when we put these teams up. That was the case with the Guardians.
And you're going to continue to see that as they go through the season. I don't care if they finish with the best record in the American League, the best record in baseball. As we get to the playoffs, if they match up against a Yankee team where you have Cole on the mound, a Gill on the mound, the Yankees are going to be favored just because of the starting pitching matchups, as we've talked about.
Before we jump to some other sports too with baseball, talk about all the offerings that we have now. First inning, first three, first five. There's so many different things to bet on the app now. So many different props on a nightly basis. Check it out. It really is a lot going on. We know it's super hot outside, but you can stay inside and be nice and cool. Whip out your app and just kind of play all this stuff throughout the course of the day.
Yeah, and as we hit late June, obviously we had the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals. Quick shout out to the Florida Panthers. incredible Game 7. Connor McDavid for the Conn Smythe. It was a great series. Thoroughly enjoyed the 7 games. Looking forward to the Knights getting back on the ice through the season. But now that the NBA is done, now that NHL is done, we're pushing even more of that baseball menu. We've added first 3 inning lines back to the menu. So we had the first 5. First inning, will they score a run? We've added a lot of the homers, but look to add the first 3. Again, that quick action. We know you guys want to get in the action on the game, cash that ticket out, and be able to bet it on the next game. And first 3 innings is obviously a real cool bet. Again, with starting pitching, you're going one time essentially through the lineup to see what kind of happens. And with today's kind of starters, where we see some of these bullpen starters, the first 3 inning lines become very interesting. So you'll see that both over the counter, at the kiosks, and on the mobile app. Look for the first 3 inning lines now being offered on STN Sports.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff. I know we've talked about baseball and teams to bet against. I know I'm counting how many days there are until football season starts, but it's not that far away.
We continue. Again, get the app. Continue. We've got a no worry wager offer for all new signups up to $50. We continue to add stuff just about each week. Something in college football, something in pro football. The guys continue to work on props, different player stuff, different conferences. So continue to check the app out week after week as we continue to push forward on those menus, on offerings in the football menu.
Let's touch a little bit on the WNBA. I mean, it continues, our handle on a daily basis continues to go through the roof, really. I mean, it's so different now than it was a couple of years ago. We're fortunate that we have the Las Vegas Aces, 2-time defending champs. What Caitlin Clark has brought to the league, Angel Reese has brought to the league. And think about the game they played on Sunday. Since April of 2023, they've played 5 games together against each other, and 2 of those games were decided by 1 point. Just the handle that we're seeing now on the WNBA. Again, check out the app with all the props that are put up on these girls. It's phenomenal basketball. It's fun, and it really is a good filler this time of year.
Yeah, they just finished up the Commissioner's Cup. Now we'll get back into kind of the regular season. And again, you said it. Number 1, it starts with the fever. It starts with Caitlin Clark. All the props that we're putting up on the games. And it's not just her. We're putting up props on all the players involved in these games. It's really been a monster menu expansion in the WNBA. And it's right, because the games are good.
Right.
They're a lot of fun to watch. We've got wagering on them. We've got in-game wagering on them and props on each and every game.
And I'm sure you guys could hear over our shoulder, too, kind of the crowd getting excited and yelling a little bit between Copa and the Euro Soccer Championships. Really good soccer, too, that's going on right now. Internet from an international standpoint, a lot of great battles for these countries and great crowds in here on a daily basis.
Yeah, we're finishing.
And I love the times.
Finishing up the group stage in the Euro 2024. Right. Now we'll start to go to the knockout stage there. Again, the top countries have gotten through. We've had a couple of upsets, but we're seeing the big dogs that we expected to see at the top. France and England, kind of favorites there. Don't dismiss Germany, home country, tend to play a little bit over their heads playing in their home country. But look for these games again in the daytime hours as we go through this knockout stage. And then we're kind of in the beginning of the group stage in the Copa America. Right. Again, reverse on the hours as those games are being hosted here in North America and even in our own backyard here at Allegiant Stadium, where we have a game going on right now, and we'll have games throughout the tournament. But again, those games are more in the 3 o'clock hour and the 6 o'clock hour, featuring the North American and South American teams. So again, get on there, check out the soccer. The soccer menus on these games, both the Euro and the Copa, like I talked about before Game 7, we had like 400 ways that you could bet the NHL Game 5. These are regular, soccer games. There's 300 plus bets on all of these things. We're talking about exact score, corner kicks. It's amazing the soccer menu and how it goes on. And again, soccer, the in-play wagering menu on soccer is absolutely cool. So when the game kicks off, the wagering doesn't stop. You can wager throughout the game. A lot of in-play wagering opportunities on soccer.
Yeah, there's so much. And we kind of talked about the fact that NBA and NHL had ended right now, but there's so many other things going on. I mean, and this weekend you've got both UFC and Powerslap as well. So, check out the app for all that stuff. I know you want to touch on Powerslap a little bit.
Powerslap 8. I'm Fountain Blue.
I had to serve it up to him.
Here in Las Vegas, Fountain Blue, Friday night, 6 o'clock. It's a great card. It's got 2 women's fights. We talked about Paige Van Zandt,
Right.
just recruited to Powerslap. She'll be going
UFC,
up against
bare knuckles, and now Powerslap.
She'll be going up against Christine Wolmerins. Wolmerins a very slight favorite in that matchup. We've got Jackie Cataline fighting Katarina Lerner. Cataline is the one who knocked out Bathory on a first slap and then had a stepping foul.
Right.
Bathory wasn't able to continue, but man, did she absolutely rock her. She's a pretty heavy favorite. The main event, the crazy Hawaiian, 260 favored over Danny Pitbull. We see Austin Turp Daddy Slim, who's one of the most eccentric characters in Powerslap.
As you can tell, he loves
He's
this.
going up against Vernon McCann Cathy. He's a pretty big favorite. Wesley Alderdrain Smoke is another guy that's you watch these things. These guys are absolutely crazy. We'll call it the crap talking that's going on back and forth. He's another one that's really up for that. And then we saw the champion, Emmanuel Muniz, knock off Christopher Thomas to take home the belt. He's back on this card against Anthony Blackburn, who's been on an absolute tear, kind of coming up the ranks. And that'll be another championship bout. So it's on the app. Check it out. Powerslap 8, Friday night. It's at the Fountain Blue Live.
Right.
If you haven't had a chance to go check out Powerslap, do it in person. Get over to Fountain Blue. Check that out. If you can't, rumble.com. We'll be showing all the Power Slaps. Get on there at 6 o'clock on Friday, the 28th. Rumble.com, 6 o'clock, Powerslap 8. I guarantee you, you're going to get a kick out of it. This is it's crazy, and the knockouts are absolutely nuts.
They really are. I mean, there is so much going on right now, even with some of the major sports just ending. But I know by the time this airs, the NBA draft will already have taken place. The NHL draft is later this week. So check out the future. There's going to be a bevy of trades in both those two leagues, kind of see what ultimately happens. We know Celebrini will be the first pick by San Jose in hockey, but what happens after that? There's a lot of big-name players that potentially could get moved, especially Marner from Tampa Bay could be somebody who gets moved as well, some other guys as well. So
well, and the big move this week already was the New York Knicks.
Right.
The Mikal Bridges getting him from Brooklyn.
5 number ones.
Yeah,
I mean, they gave up a bounty.
To combine him with all his Villanova brothers, there'll now be 4 guys. I think it's from the 2016 or 18 Villanova College Championship squad that now are going to be on the Knicks. And then I just saw the breaking news as we were sitting here that Anunoby just signed with the Knicks. So that's a really, really good team that the Knicks have been.
Who can compete with the Celtics maybe in the East.
Are putting together. So after we finish up, I got to go check what the odds are on the Knicks and maybe drop them down a little bit. With
we lowered them already.
With that
so
addition.
We're good. So. But anyway, guys, there's so much going on right now. Please check out the app. Again, I know it's super hot outside, but it's cool inside, and you've got this at your fingertips to check out all the cool stuff that's going on right now. So we'll be getting a lot more into the NFL with a bunch of different props that we have up and a lot of cool stuff from conferences, divisions, player props. Look for all that stuff, win totals. We'll be adding to that in the coming weeks as well.
Get yourself ready. Come get the app. It's a great time. It's a slow time. Come in the book. Get signed up there for the app. As we said, we've got the $50 no worry wager going on. And for those of you getting ready for the Olympics, I keep getting ready for it. Looking at what we're going to be able to put up. We're going to try and put up as much as we can on the Olympics. Obviously overseas in Paris, but a lot of the USA athletes. We're excited for them as they go and head towards this Olympics. So look for the Olympics to find their way to the app as well.
And with football season not that far away, a little over a month away from taking applications for Last Man Standing, college and pro, we'll be getting more details out to you guys on that as well. So again, check out the app. A lot of really cool stuff. He's Jason. I'm Chucky. This is a sports betting podcast, Bookends, powered by STN Sports. And we'll see you guys next week from Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook.